So for the UUA to respond to my thinking differently by falsely accusing me of blasphemous libel is the absolute antithesis of love. And again, we can go on and on and on about other ways in which top-level UUA leaders, Unitarian Universalist clergy, express their differences of opinion with people in a very unloving manner. My protest began as a protest against the fact that Reverend Ray Drennan, the minister of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, rudely interrupted me as I was trying to explain a profound revelatory religious experience to him, saying in a very angry tone of voice, "You mean your psychotic experience?" And following that up by angrily insisting that I seek psychiatric treatment for my alleged psychotic experience, which, by the way, the experience that he was talking about took place several years before he made that accusation. So, even if I did have some kind of psychotic episode, which I'm quite sure is not the case, it did not mean that I was still suffering from psychosis or any other mental illness at the time that he laced into me. But that wasn't enough for Ray Drennan. In the very same meeting, I was also trying to explain to him an interreligious event that I'd successfully organized, an interreligious celebration of creation. And I'm not talking creationism here per se. I'm talking about, the environment, the world, well, not just the world though, the universe, and our place in it. It was very much, you could call it a religious Earth Day kind of thing, trying to promote care for the earth, care for, the environment and other living creatures and so on, even our fellow human beings. But no, Reverend Ray Drennan, in his efforts to discredit me, slandered this interreligious event as a cult. When I immediately challenged him and asked him, what he meant by the word cult, knowing full well that, the way he said it, he meant it in the worst sense, he responded by saying, "I mean a manipulative and secretive religious group." So making it quite clear that he meant, the word cult in the worst way. Basically talking about groups like the Solar Temple, Heaven's Gate, and so on. Most ironically, when you look back at things, the Unitarian Universalist Association fits his own description of a cult. Because, what could be more manipulative and secretive than falsely accusing someone of the crime of blasphemous libel in an effort to, hide the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are guilty of engaging in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So I find it a delicious little irony there that the Unitarian Universalist Association is a manipulative and secretive religious group when it comes to clergy sexual misconduct. And it's, of course, a manipulative and secretive religious group in other ways. I'm not saying it's a cult per se. That was Reverend Ray Drennan's definition of a cult. I'm just saying that the Unitarian Universalist Association, to say nothing of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, which is guilty of similar behavior, actually fit Reverend Ray Drennan's definition of a cult, a manipulative and secretive religious group. Well done, UUA and Unitarian Church of Montreal. So the Unitarian Church of Montreal actually behaved in a very manipulative and even secretive manner when it tried to ban Creation Day from being celebrated in the Unitarian Church of Montreal for a second time. They had a in-camera segment of the board meeting. In other words, a completely secretive segment of the board meeting in which they voted against Creation Day being held in the Unitarian Church of Montreal, even though it had already been unanimously approved by the Religious Education Committee. So that was definitely secretive, no doubt about it. And I think most people would agree, manipulative. And I should add that that took place about a month before Reverend Ray Drennan defined a cult as a manipulative and secretive religious group. Irony of ironies. But I could go on and on and on about how Unitarian Universalists are A, manipulative, and B, secretive about not only clergy misconduct, but various other internal issues that they want to try and keep out of the public eye. That is that. Like I said, I could provide other evidence to show how they match Reverend Ray Drennan's definition of a cult, which, as I said, I find to be kind of funny. So here we are. We're just basically in our second half hour of my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against a variety of Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. And, beautiful, sunny, not too cold, early February day, February 1st. Yeah, we're just a day away from Groundhog Day, where the groundhog, pokes his head out of the ground to see whether or not he's got a shadow looming in front of him or not, to determine how much winter is in front of us or not. And of course, we will, disregard the, scientific aspects or lack thereof of Groundhog Day. But nonetheless, on a symbolic level, it's, you've got this creature coming out and seeing whether or not it's got a shadow. And whether or not there's going to be a continuation of cold weather. So, I think maybe I should reimagine Groundhog Day as, Corpse Cold Unitarianism Day or something, let's see, maybe I'll stick my head out of the ground tomorrow and see whether there's a shadow or not, and see, how much longer Unitarian Universalists are going to behave in a corpse cold Unitarian manner in response to grievances about clergy sexual misconduct, other clergy misconduct, various other internal injustices and abuses. I think I can predict exactly what will happen on February 2nd. I think regardless of whether I see my own shadow like this or not, I can be quite certain there will be at least 6 months of corpse cold Unitarian, in quotation marks, winter in front of me, because I just do not foresee, incredibly stubborn, incredibly obstinate Unitarian Universalists throwing in the towel and deciding to stand on the side of love, not only for me personally, but for numerous other people who've been badly treated by Unitarian Universalist clergy. I just don't see that happening, really. But I think I will. I might actually celebrate Groundhog Day in my own special way tomorrow. Let's, see if there's a shadow or not. I mean, if the weather's anything like today, there definitely will be. So yeah, I think the symbolism is quite appropriate. But of course, when we speak of shadow, we're not talking about just the physical shadow. We're talking about, hypocrisy, hubris, perversion of justice, censorship and suppression of critics, and so on. The dark, seamy underside of Unitarian Universalism, the psychological shadow of the Unitarian Universalist religious community, the psychological shadow of people like Reverend Ray Drennan, Reverend Dr. Peter Morales, and so on and so forth. UUA Executive Vice President Kathleen K. Montgomery, on and on and on. I mean, everyone's got their psychological shadow. I've got mine. I don't deny that. But the fact is, you know, what better day to devote to, you know, exposing Unitarian Universalist injustices and abuse and hypocrisy than Groundhog Day. You know, and you know, whether or not the UUA and other Unitarian Universalists will continue to bury their heads in the ground and not deal responsibly with the shadow of the Unitarian Universalist religious community. So yeah, maybe I will officially, you know, reimagine February 14th as, February 2nd as Unitarian Universalist Shadow Day or something like that. And then, of course, you know, yeah, February 14th, well, the UUA reimagined February 14th as Standing on the Side of Love Day, you know, quite some time ago. You know, it's, you know, incredibly hypocritical in how, you know, on the one hand, they talk about standing on the side of love, but absolutely refuse to stand on the side of love for victims of clergy misconduct of all kinds, so both sexual misconduct and non-sexual misconduct. The Unitarian Universalist Association and the larger Unitarian Universalist religious community have a terrible track record of not only not standing on the side of love for victims of clergy misconduct, but in fact, you know, standing on the side of love for the abusive clergy that are actually guilty of various forms of clergy misconduct. Standing on the side of love for Reverend Mac W. Mitchell by trying to cover up and hide the rapes he committed, you know, by trying to get his victims to sign confidentiality agreements so he didn't face charges for rape. You know, the Unitarian Universalist Association is guilty of considerable support for abusive Unitarian Universalist clergy, including clergy that are guilty of quite serious forms of clergy sexual misconduct. So I like to, you know, make that point, you know, about how the